Hello and welcome back to the Cellar Road Podcast. My name is Anna. I'm not joined by Adam today. He's feeling a little bit under the weather, so I decided to venture out into the world and come to one of my favorite local wineries, Pollack Vineyard, here in Greenwood, Virginia, and taste through a flight that they just poured for me and explore some newer releases that I haven't had the opportunity to taste and check in. And I wanted to bring you along with me, and let's talk about tasting etiquette when you are at a winery and what you should do. Ultimately, when you are at a winery tasting, it is a tasting. You are here not necessarily to drink. Sometimes you can get glasses of wine, you can get a bottle to share with people, but when you are actively engaging in tasting, you're coming to evaluate a wine and evaluate the wine, some like the winery's new releases. So what does that mean? So what I'm going to do is ultimately evaluate the quality of the wine. So a few things I'm going to look at is color. So I know that this is a Chardonnay. I would expect it to be pretty golden. And it is. Check the color and make sure that the color is the proper color for the grape. Then I'm going to smell it, evaluate the aromas. Got a lot of peach, pear, white flowers. It's pretty ripe, so it almost leans to some tropical and orange zest notes as well. Then we're gonna sip. Sip, savor the wine in the mouth, swish it around, breathe oxygen into it if you can, like sucking through a straw to help just get the oxygen to open the wine in your mouth. Evaluate the palate. It should be relatively similar to the aroma. In this case, it's very similar. It leans a little bit more peachy and orchard or orchard-based fruit on the palate than what I get on the nose. Spit, we'll talk about spitting here in a second. And in doing that, you are evaluating the wine for what it is. So there's two different types of way you can go about it. Looking for a wine that you like versus evaluating the wine for what it is. So there are certain standards to wines, like this is a Chardonnay. So I would expect it to taste a certain way. Now, it's a different question as to whether or not I like Chardonnay. And so when I am tasting a wine, first I always evaluate quality. And then the second question for me is, do I like the wine? This is a great wine. I really, really like this. I think this is a really easy drinking, sipping style of Chardonnay that's just really, really well balanced, and something that I would encourage somebody to drink if they come to you and they're like, I don't like Chardonnays. And in saying that, they mean they don't like overly oaked, buttery Chardonnays. This is really, really well balanced and just really easy drinking. So that leads to the question of what happens when you taste a wine that you don't like. It's okay not to like a wine. I taste a lot of wines every single week, every single year, sometimes daily, that I really, really don't like. It's totally fine not to like something. You don't have to make a big fuss about it. If you don't like it, it's totally fine just to dump the rest of it. And just be like, oh, I could see how somebody would like this, or oh, I would recommend this for my mom or my grandma. This wine seems right up their alley. You don't have to be like, this wine is shit. It sucks. I don't like it. That's incredibly rude. There are a lot of ways to make comments about stuff without degrading all of the hard work that goes into the process of making the wine. Another thing to do when it comes to wine tasting is be mindful of any fragrances that you could be wearing. I never wear perfume when I am tasting wine, and I always recommend to others not to wear perfume when they are, because again, one of the important things of tasting is smelling the wine. And so if you have any competing aromas you're not going to be able to smell the aroma of the wine as well as you otherwise could. And so we have some Viognier here, which is just beautifully floral. Viognier is a really big varietal here in Virginia. And so it's white flowers and peach blossoms with some apricots, like underripe apricots, peaches, apples. It's really robust and has great acid on it for Viognier. I think the florality is super, super nice on it. I do wish the stone fruit shone through a little bit more, but as is the struggle always with growing Viognier. So always remember, you are also at a wine tasting. Do not be afraid to spit. I know in general public and in general society. However, in the wine industry, spitting is normal. This is because wine is an alcoholic product. And if you are planning on doing a lot of tasting in the days, even tiny sips like this can get you drunk really quick. The glasses really, really add up. So don't be afraid to spit. If you don't want to spit and you do want to swallow, make sure you have a designated driver with you. And to always just drink responsibly. This is yummy. Another thing is the style of tasting that you're doing. So here I'm tasting through a flight. They poured the flight for me. And then I'm pouring my own taste of them. So this is one style of tasting. Another style of tasting is standing at the bar and having somebody pour the wines for you. If you are standing at a bar and the tasting is being conducted at a bar, be mindful of those around you. Don't crowd the bar. While you want to take your time in tasting, don't overdo it. Don't be excessive in taking the time. And if you have somebody in the winery pouring for you, be respectful of them. They may not know everything about the wine that you're tasting, but they should be able to inform you about the estate or the winery in which you're tasting and be able to tell you a little bit about the wine. But as a general rule, don't come in expecting to have like a really in-depth conversation with somebody who's pouring for you behind the bar. So don't come in and be like an incredible wine snob and show off all your knowledge for somebody who may not be able to engage with you. It's different if you are tasting with a winemaker or somebody who actively wants to talk about the wine that's in your glass. But having knowledgeable individuals who are able to have in-depth conversations with you about the wines behind the bar at every single winery that you're going to is almost impossible. He's quite big. It's a big boy. Another thing is another style of tasting that you can do is either a walk-in or set up a reservation. If you have a reservation, make sure you arrive on time. If you are going to be late, give the courtesy and call ahead so that they know when to expect you. Another thing when it comes to tasting, even though I'm tasting through stuff with the intent on buying a bottle or two, never feel pressured to buy a bottle at a tasting. The tasting process is coming through and trying to discover what you like and what you don't like. And again, there is no shame in not liking anything that you taste. You don't need to make a big fuss about it. And the expectation of a tasting isn't necessarily to sell wine. It is to introduce you to the wines and to introduce you to the style of wines that are being made at a certain winery. So never feel any pressure to buy anything when you are at a tasting. And I always recommend wearing dark clothes if you spill any red wine on light colored clothes, unless you have some wine away or quick ways to remove red wine from your light colored clothes. You might be in some trouble. I can't tell you how many times I spilled wine all over my one white dress, and I've like cried because it's taken me days to get the white wine out, or the red wine out. But yeah, those are kind of the basic rules of etiquette when it comes to wine tasting. I always recommend going and tasting at wineries that you can and interacting and coming to the place where the wines are made. You're going to learn so much more about it and come to appreciate it in a more robust way. So I hope you guys enjoy tasting in the future, and cheers.